Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming today. We're going to get started right now. Sorry for the delay. If you guys want to go ahead and grab a seat, please. Or you can stand up, too. Thank you, guys. Alexandra, can you get the music, please? Thank you. So, welcome. Thank you guys for coming to Capital Factory for the Co-Founder Meetup. It's been over a year since we hosted this event. So I'm happy that you all made it. You all here. We're still alive. Keep kicking. Can you get somebody to get that music? I think there's, there you go. Thank you. Appreciate that. So this is our first one since last year, guys. I appreciate you guys coming. It was last minute. Hopefully you guys come back next month. We have some exciting stuff coming up. This year it's been tough for everybody, so hopefully you guys keep connecting with everybody and somehow or another come up with some great companies and some startups. Press the run button there. There we go. So that's my name, Johan Borch. My wife you met, Veronica. Robbie, community director. Chow, actually she couldn't make it. Lydia, Jan. Everybody here in the community help out to what we're doing here. This is not a money maker, guys, so this is just whatever you guys are eating and making is what goes back into you guys pay for and also commits you all to come here. So that's why we charge. This is our sponsors, but Capital Factory providing the space. Uruguay Sports is actually my wife's business. She actually is a nonprofit, so we help her out with that. For volleyball, yes. TCRE is my investment company. I invest in real estate, and as you all know, real estate is pretty hot right now. So I definitely do this out of charity because I could be making more money out there than here, but I like giving back to the community, guys, so I hope you guys do the same. Pitch Deals is a startup that I started that I really haven't developed anything with, but if you guys have any ideas with it, let me know. Hey, there's so many ideas out there. It was first going to be like Groupon before Groupon started, but we turned to Pitch Deals, and then so many other Groupon came along. We just pretty much killed it. And I have one idea, but it just takes a lot of time, and right now I'm just making too much money in real estate, so maybe I have more time, I'll jump back into that. This is how the tech map started. It was just basically a map with a bunch of, where startups were, investors were, co-working spaces, so people know where they were. And it was just in Austin. And now if you check the map, it's pretty much all over the place. It has grown over. We created the profiles because we saw a lot of startups come and go. And unless you were not alive, you wouldn't have a profile, but you have to keep something there. So that's why we create the profiles for the tech map. You guys have color dots. Some of you have maybe one or two because you are multitasking, I guess. But hopefully you came here for one reason, and that's either to find an investor, find your next co-founder, which could be an entrepreneur or a developer, or you just want to market yourself for your next job, which is it's all cool. Sorry about that. I should have said, turn off your phones, guys. And I'm making that mistake. So this is another thing we did with the tech map. We created groups because we wanted to be the next meetup, which that hasn't really worked out. We used their API to attract our events and publish our events everywhere. But we have done a lot of other stuff, created companies where people can post their jobs in companies for the tech map, and calendars. This is something that we're still developing where if you want to meet somebody, you can schedule them in. Because all about meeting people here today is about the follow-up. If you don't follow up with that person, that deal or business idea you had is gone. So follow up with people. So that's why I created the calendar. And this is the profile itself, how it looks. And, it used to look nice maybe 2 years ago. Now it's so kind of updated. We need to probably update our profile stuff, so how it looks. So any feedback, we'd love to hear it. This is our Bootstrap stuff that we started a long time ago. This is Chat, which is really beta. We never used it, kind of killed it. I don't think nobody uses it, so I'm probably gonna take that out. And today was announcements, our announcement that we're doing right now with the sponsors and what I just told you. We'll have, we'll have the companies pitch first, and then we'll have the keynote speakers come in. I believe we have 2 people coming pitching today. The way it works is pitches are 5 minutes, 4 minutes Q&A, that will get cut off. Keynote speaker will come in, we'll talk about 30 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes, I guess I'll say, and probably 10 minutes Q&A. And this will be our keynote speaker that we'll have tonight. And this will be next month that you guys should sign up to attend. But let's go ahead and get started with our actual pitches, if you don't mind. And we'll have today, first presenter, if you want to come up here. Let me back up your screen here. I should have started from the beginning. There we go. Here you go. You can grab that microphone there if you want. Just turn it on.
Test.
You got the clicker over there?
I don't know why I brought this. I got it.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Matt Ingram. I am the CEO and co-founder at Outfitter Expert.
And my name's Kirby Kissinger Ingram. I am the co-founder and COO of Outfitter Expert.
We only have 2 mics up here, so I'm going to talk loud. My name is Colby Kissinger. I am the CMO of Outfitter Expert.
Yes, that is my husband, and yes, that is my brother, just in case you're wondering.
So Outfitter Expert is a global hunting and fishing online travel booking marketplace. We are creating a user-friendly platform for hunting guides, fishing guides, and property owners to post their professional services online for outdoorsmen to book around the world. So the major problem that's out there right now, and if some of y'all are outdoorsmen, y'all may know it, but finding and booking a hunting and fishing trip is next to impossible. Because of this, the hunting and fishing industry is extremely remote and boundless, and it's hard to get consolidated for everyone to find them. Outfitters need to be outfitters. They belong in the woods, tracking down their harvest and catching the fish for their customers. And they provide a specific niche that is sought after by millions of outdoorsmen, but they just don't have any effective outlet to reach their audience. And that is where we come in with our hunting and fishing online booking marketplace. We're gonna have a calendar-driven native platform where you can see exactly what's available and book it right there on the spot.
So according to the 2016 National Survey of Fishing, Hunting, and Wildlife, expenditures by sports persons totaled $81 billion, and out of the $81 billion, $30.9 billion was trip-related expenditures. This is just for the U.S. market. We are planning on being global.
Just to kind of go over briefly of our marketing strategy, there's a few things on there, but I'll just kind of name the top 3 that we're after. Right now, we have our social media up and running on 4 platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, as well as Twitter. All of those have been up and running for the last 2 weeks. A lot of engagement. That's really our focus space at the moment. But soon, as we're starting to get funding, we'll be traveling to like expos, conventions, where we'll be face-to-face, direct to consumer. And then lastly, we got our digital marketing, where we'll do follow-ups with email and general information. Customer profiles, just to give you all a good idea of when you sign up, this is the 5 categories that we've kind of lined up for that initial sign-in. We'll start on the far left side. There is that outfitter. The outfitter is going to be the hunting guide or the fishing guide. Those are the people kind of leading the way on these excursions as these outdoorsmen come to visit. The property owner, that's going to be the landowner or the homeowner who's actually hosting these guides or these fishing trips. And then, of course, the fishing charter is the water side of the property owner. So it's the boat owner. This is the people that's going to be using our platform to do their marketing and their advertising, that they can rely on us as a trusted platform. And we'll skip the outdoorsman for now. We'll go ahead and go to the organization. The organization is the already established organizations that are out there that are up and running with a large audience platform that's already established. And we plan to target them pretty heavily, hopefully to convert them to use our site and make us the trusted brand for them. And then, of course, lastly, the outdoorsmen, we can all relate to them if you're in the outdoor world. That's going to be your everyday hunter or fisherman that is looking to book their next excursion out there.
So what makes Outfitter Expert better than our competitors? Both Outfitter Expert and our competitors work as advertisement services. We're a platform where you can advertise your hunting and fishing services. Our competitors provide either hunting or fishing on separate platforms, whereas Outfitter Expert is going to provide hunting and fishing on the same platform. Our competitors charge up to 15% out of the outfitter's pocket, whereas Outfitter Expert is only going to charge 5% out of the outfitter's pocket, and will make up that 10% by charging a 10% booking fee to the outdoorsman. Our biggest difference is that if you look to the left, this is what, when you go to book a hunt, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get an open-ended comment box. They're going to give you a phone number, an email. They're going to put the responsibility of booking or finding availability completely in the customer's hands, whereas Outfitter Expert is going to have a native calendar-driven booking service, where when you get onto our platform, you're going to have a calendar right there. You're going to be able to see availability, and you're going to be able to book your hunt right on the spot. So just to go into how we make our money just a little bit further, once a booking is made, the outdoorsman will pay the booking price plus a 10% booking fee, where the outfitter is going to profit that booking price minus a 5% booking fee, totaling a 15% profit from Outfitter Expert. I'm going to skip this because it's a little in the weeds. Our revenue projection will be around $3 million in our first year and up to $6.3 million by year 5.
All right, and that wraps up our pitch. Appreciate y'all listening. Thank you.
Any questions? Yeah, any questions?
Go ahead.
All right. So have y'all considered, as far as y'all's customer profiles, have y'all considered becoming like the educational format of like some of the guided fishing trips? Because I know there's a lot of ignorant consumers, which I would consider ignorant consumers, and I want to book
Yeah.
like a fishing trip to go out there with my friends and fish.
Yeah, absolutely.
The thought process.
Absolutely, great question. And that's definitely the part of our marketing strategy too. We're not just after the outdoorsman. We're after bringing the outdoors to the everyday consumer. I mean, we want to get everybody involved the best we can. And I think the first step to that is our social media, being able to reach everybody at their fingertips. And our biggest thing about follow us if you will. But yeah, so to answer your question, our social media is actually our educational side of things. And that's where most people find us, is going to be through that initial Google search or looking us up on Facebook or Instagram. All of our stuff, our content that we're posting right now will be educational purpose only. We have stories that you can follow and put your notifications on, so every time we post, you get that notification. We educate you on both the fishing side and the hunting side, from both the outfitter and the outdoorsman side of things. So we're trying to cover the whole spectrum of the outdoors when it comes to the Outfitter Expert, making you essentially the Outfitter Expert. That's the idea.
You mentioned that your competitors basically separate the booking systems into fishing and hunting and desert and emerging. Do you guys know if there's a reason they decided to separate it and what the advantage is? I mean, it seems natural to merge them, so why haven't they?
We don't know why they separate it, but I could assume that it's because they probably have a specific niche in that industry, and they just stuck with what they knew.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, so we will have a review function on our platform. The outdoorsman will be able to review the outfitter, and the outfitter will be able to review the outdoorsman. So.
You're talking about from the entry-level outdoorsman versus like the experienced, and seeing what's the best fit for you.
How do we vet them on our website?
Yep, I teach fly fishing, I'm good.
Well, we don't. That's a good question. That's definitely something we need to talk further about. Are you going to answer?
I'm trying to understand the question a little bit better, I'm sorry.
I understand
I
it.
can't really hear you.
No, it's okay. I understand it. It's definitely something we need to talk further about. We haven't gone into our vetting system yet. Once we get funding, we are going to have a full law team that is going to help us do a vetting system. Just like Airbnb, there's not a whole lot you can do when they post a house, but there is certain insurances and stuff that you can make them sign up for in order to be vetted, and just extra insurance on things.
You know, what, can you give an idea of the typical demographic, ideal client, customer that you are going for?
We're looking, the ideal demographic with hunting and fishing is around 30 to 65. That would be who does the most hunting and fishing. That would be who we will first go after, but I think as we all know, you don't have to be 30 to 65 to hunt or fish, and so we'll be available to all demographics.
Those numbers are also going off your average traveler as well, not just the outdoorsman. So we're trying to cover the broad spectrum of the travelers. So when she says the 30 to 35 to the 65, we're wanting the people that are able to are already established kind of in the industry at the moment. That's going to be the spark or the fire that's going to kind of get us going to make that kind of the broad coverage for Outfitter Expert to get our name out there. And as that follows in, then we'll start to have like the father-son duo, the kids, we'll get them involved. I mean, we're going to have a process where they have a certification, they're going to have a hunting license. We're all going to have requirements for these certain outdoorsmen that are coming on to our platform. But to answer your question, our market's as broad as, I mean, from 18 to 65.
How do you plan on getting your initial set of customers? And I guess who is exactly the customer?
So the customer is on our profile is the outdoorsman. They're the hunter, the fisherman. If you look on all of our competitors' websites, because they don't use a calendar-driven booking platform, they actually list all the numbers of all the outfitters that they have on their sites. Also, the way that outfitters currently book their services is they all maintain their own separate websites. So it's going to be a lot of Googling and digging through a bunch of separate websites, plus going to our competitors and snagging that list of numbers and emails.
Can I harp on that real quick? Do we have time? I'm sorry. So to kind of go off of that, we also have a form that we're in the process of making. Actually, we've already made it. But once we do meet an outdoorsman or an outfitter that is interested in something that we are doing, it allows them to give us their general information. So when we do go live, we already have that in the system to where we can reach out to them or send that initial email, which is actually in the marketing plan. But if we meet them at conventions, stuff like that, or even in person, we'll have a link we can send to them and they can fill it out and it'll register them. So when we do go live, we have all these contacts already booked to say, hey, they're ready to become a part of the OE family. Let's get them up and running. And it all starts from there. Is that everything? All right. All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. That was great. Actually, later this month, September, I'm going, thank you for the clicker. We're going whitewater rafting, so that'd be actually something you guys should check into because they do fishing too when you go whitewater rafting. So I think we have one more person that wanted to pitch. Tal? Debbie too. Okay, so who wants to go first? Debbie, come first. Davey, I'm so sorry I messed up her name. Davey. And do you want me to bring up your website? Sure. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can bring up Safari here or Chrome maybe. I hope I'm spelling it correctly. Huh?
Just in case if alerts turn off automatically.
if you want. Let me see, how do we do that? Can you see if they can get somebody to turn off the lights, this lights? I don't know how. Turn them on. You got it? Is this it?
How are we doing? Okay, not used to microphones. So my name is Davey Brule. I am a commercial director. And I should just say I'm a TV commercial director because people get confused otherwise. So I do video advertising. And I wasn't planning on pitching today. Yeah, that's perfect, thank you. And I'm not usually in a room like this, but it's super nice to see all of you. And I'm excited to share a little bit of my work. So I'm actually just gonna start off showing a couple of my spots, and then I'll tell you what else I do. All right. So that's a little more on the polished, high-end fashion kind of realm, and here's something that will contrast a little bit more.
When I grow up, I would be like an artist.
Become a pharmacist.
A oceanographer. Having a healthy life is like you eat vegetables, you play catch, being with your family, being emotionally healthy too. You have to listen to the earth. Actually, I've seen like cowboy boots and they use those for like pots.
We plant our own food.
And we're eating them and we're cooking dishes for people. I was thinking it would be an exercise machine and it would power a waddle and a food source, laundry.
Every family has their own garden.
There would never be any more endangered animals. It's like a connection with everything around you.
We have power to make ourselves healthy.
To make our future better.
The future begins right now.
Thank you. So let's see. So if we have time, I could maybe show you one more, but I will. I'll give you a little sense of where I've been. So, gosh, in my work, I push for excellence, of course, and I'm totally can be quite a perfectionist. But I also just really like to have fun and work with really good people, and that's become such a bottom line for me. I think probably my closest connection to this room and this crowd is that I was also a COO for an online education company, and essentially ran all operations pretty much A to Z, and I was also doing video production of courses themselves, promo videos for that. I was pretty much involved in all levels, so product development and sort of positioning, considering like what really is the target audience and male and female, and this was for sort of a spiritually minded self-growth kind of education. And in addition was just designing marketing campaigns. I wrote ad copy, I was doing hiring, I just kind of, like I said, A to Z with that. And in doing that, I really got to understand, it was kind of an unexpected opportunity that came up, and I got to understand what it's like to run a company from the inside, a small company. You're bootstrapping your own growth and figuring it out as you go, and finding really great models, you know, what you want to model in that realm, and looking at YouTube and podcasting and things like that. And really, that was kind of like getting my MBA. And I started to understand brand growth strategies, and essentially I've had, I think, enough experience now both making commercials. I actually spent 12 years living in Los Angeles, and now I'm in Austin, and was basically, you know, living and breathing commercials and advertising, and worked on huge, like $4 million Victoria's Secret campaigns, and also, you know, $200,000 smaller projects and things of all different sizes, and was doing production on that. But also being inside a small company and looking at how to bootstrap something, I think gave me a different perspective in terms of how to think from both ends and not be spoiled with like a really huge budget, and not just look at these numbers, but go, okay, well, if you're at this stage of growth or this stage of growth, really it all comes down to storytelling. And storytelling is what I'm completely in love with and fascinated by. And I, like I said, I'm not usually in this type of room. But I think, like, often I actually work directly with production companies that are actually all over the place. So in Chicago, in LA, one of them just moved to Austin. And I think, I was trying to think in terms of pitching today what I can offer you guys, and I think that I understand brand storytelling a lot more than even a few years ago. So if anybody wants to talk about that, that would be really fun, because I think stories are not just how people know you, know your brand, know your product. I think stories are an emotional in, and they're how we remember you. So it's how a quote unquote consumer, which we should not call them that, really they're people, right? People want to understand people, they want to feel understood, they want to experience emotion, and I think that storytelling and brand storytelling in particular, there's no reason that it can't be emotional and personal and draw you in with all kinds of techniques, this is like my work and my love and what I love to do. So I think since I have worked on the inside of a company, it's now fun to dig into that and to really explore what is it that you're offering in terms of vision. So not just product, what do you give people in terms of a product of your experience, but also what's the vision and what's the meaning behind it. And there have been ad studies done, and I'm referencing some that I'm thinking from a few years ago, and nobody talks about them, but they point very clearly to the fact that if you're looking at it from a science and data standpoint, the ads that are done with emotional and experiential qualities have they have higher engagement, and more importantly, they stick in our memory in a different way than something that is a hard sell. So you've probably all seen ads that are just kind of like, okay, this is boring. Why did somebody invest money in this? This is like not engaging to you versus something that takes you out into a snowy forest. And I think there's a world of difference. So for every brand, it's going to be different. But that's my 2 cents on what I think is cool about advertising. Let's see. Oh, and if anybody has connections to commercial production companies locally, that would be super cool too. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. And I have a pretty solid network of producers and crew members and gear hookups all over the place, and certainly can bring a lot to the table. So do we have time to play one more spot? Where's Johan? Yeah, it's okay? This is one I did for a collaboration between Burt's Bees and Walmart.
Hey, I'm Jana Kramer, and I am a mother, a country singer, and I'm an actress. There's a lot happening in my world every day, but I have to remind myself that it's important to take care of me too. I know I'm the best version of myself when I feel confident in my own skin, which is why I'm so excited about Burt's Bees' new beauty line, now available in the cosmetic aisle at Walmart and on Walmart.com. 8 classic beauty essentials, all made with natural ingredients. I like the sound of that. Knowing the products that are actually going on my face is huge. I'm taking care of my skin with the ingredients that I know and trust, like bamboo and honey. And when I put it on, I immediately fell in love. Ooh, it's made with shea butter, and this is the perfect shade. The tones are really, really nice, and the colors and the shades I love. 100% natural, music to my ears. And Eco Tools brushes are the perfect tools to achieve my look. I love the natural look. It just makes me feel light and ready to go. This is me, this is natural, and this is authentic.
Thanks. Okay. Sorry, this sound is pretty low, I guess, but I think the only thing I didn't mention is that I direct, I produce, I edit, and I color grade across the board, so whatever you might need help with, all of that is fun to me. I think that's it for now. Does anybody have questions?
Questions?
Or maybe the lights could come back on? Thank you. Yes.
Hi, yeah, thank you. These are beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're a great storyteller. So my question is, when you're telling someone's story, how do you find out what their story is to tell? What's the process there?
Sure, that's a great question. Should we play with an example, or do you want me to answer it kind of? Well, can I ask you in terms of what you're working with?
I'm trying to understand meaning and how meaning works in conversations that people have, like in politics. If Trump is talking to you now, what's going on? Because it's not just sending. Here's a good example of a storyteller.
Yeah.
It's not just giving you a package of information. He's somehow connecting with you if he's succeeding.
Okay, I see.
Connection mean? That's what I'm interested in.
Well, so your initial question I was thinking was, I guess why I asked my question was, do you have a product that we're working with? Because it sounds like you're interested.
My product is a theory of how that.
Is a theory, okay. Does this work, or do you sell something with a website? I'm just curious. Okay. So are you the brand? Is it you? Are you the brand? Your personality, your curiosity?
Well, I don't need a brand.
Okay. Okay, okay.
If they sail, they sail. If they float off, I don't think you want to make this about me.
Okay, I think I'm not, yeah, maybe I'm not.
We just had a beautiful presentation of this outdoors company. Pick their story.
Okay, sure. Well, and so I'm going to have to pick their brains, but capital fact. Okay. Well, so I guess in broad terms, I would start with a conversation, and usually I'm not actually working in the agency capacity, but I find it really fun to do so, and I've written ads, and one of the pieces on my, well, actually multiple, I'm sure, on my website, like I was involved in the writing. There's one for Waterpik that I did, and really that process is finding, usually like there's a key point that I'm looking for emotionally. So with you guys, it'd be fun to explore this. With the Waterpik one I mentioned, it was basically we found a payoff, like what's the emotional payoff so that we're not just selling shower heads. So Waterpik they do water flossers, but they also have shower heads. Sorry, I should have explained that. So so for this, it was like, well, shower heads are kind of boring, and I don't really, advertising that is like, okay, it could be really cut and dry, or we could look at, here's a father figure, and the emotional payoff when this massaging waterhead thing gives him a massage after a long day, or he has back pain. Now he gets to hang out with his daughter. So that was our emotional in for that, and how we scripted it was around, what does that actually mean? So bringing it back to meaning there. So for you guys, we could go at it the same way, and that's probably what I would push for initially to kind of explore is what is the emotional connection point? Is there something that's personal just to one person, or is it interpersonal between family members? Do you guys want to speak to that at all?
I think mostly it's a connection to the outdoors. It's a connection to the animals and the respect of the animals.
That's awesome. Yeah. Totally. And that's super relatable. So as long as you're working with something that is not too far abstract, I think that especially with cinematography and beautiful landscapes, that you can find your way into that. So it's so accessible and so relatable. And in that way, you know, you guys have probably, I'm guessing, have watched ads for North Face, for example, right? Where there's a couple lines of dialogue or how they wrap it up at the end of a little spot. You just go, oh yeah, I totally want to go camping. That is awesome. And that, I mean, you don't want to, there's a fine line, I think, between making something canned and kind of forced, and the performance is it doesn't feel authentic, and finding that real authenticity with casting or however you get into it. You know, I've worked with real life father-daughter actually related and just had a whole casting session with a bunch of dads and daughters to be able to create that. So anyway, I stole the show from you guys. What else? Anything else that that you would add to what she said? Yeah. So, and you could look at it too in terms of what are the techniques that bring out those qualities, right? So in that case, like, I'm picturing immediately in my mind, like, there's a calm river, you're out on the water, the sun is at a certain angle and you get kind of a lens flare, you have a little bit of slow motion, you're trekking through the forest and you have that slow-mo effect again, and you have a certain type of backpacker with that grin as he looks back over his shoulder, or maybe it's more like a peaceful internal thing, and you can take it in a bunch of different directions. But I think for me it's also putting myself in the shoes of somebody who wants to create this and going, what is the most important to you? I don't want to take you away from that. I want to serve you by pulling, drawing out of the people in the company and the founders what's critical here. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's beautiful. One of my, this emerged over time organically, but one of the things I realized I was really drawn to is intimacy with a subject, or with, like when you get like a macro shot that is the detail of what does it really feel like? What's the tactile feel of something, the fishing rod, whatever those details, it's the water, and those can be brought out with specific tools like the sound design that you bring in, where you have this like really isolated effect of whether it is water or wind or natural elements in your case, bringing some of that in, and suddenly the auditory component goes so far, and it's not just about the cinematography or voiceover, but you can design a whole world just with sound. So it's fun to play with. Yeah. Does that help answer the question? Okay. Cool. Oh, lovely. Yeah. I'm gonna say 2018.
It's interesting. I haven't watched it. I don't own a TV. I haven't watched the commercial in a long time. But when she turned and talked about the shea butter, I thought that was a really interesting, because it had the trappings of a commercial, cinematography, blah blah. And then she was just very colloquial, as if she was
candid.
On a, talking to her friends on a FaceTime. Like, yeah, this is, but she didn't go so far out of that realm and not into breaking the fourth wall so much.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, thanks. That was a specific technique that I think works well when brands like this join up with influencers. And initially I was kind of, maybe a little bit put off by like, okay, we're pairing up with an influencer. What is this going to mean? Are they actually an organic fit for the brand? But you find your way into it. And Jana was, in that case, Jana Kramer was handed to us, and I think she was on the OC or something. She's kind of a TV star, or was at some point. And she was really natural to work with that way, where she could kind of just find, I guess, that colloquial thing that you're referencing. So thanks.
One more question, please.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, real simple question. How much did that last commercial show us? How much did that cost the business?
The Burt's Bees and Walmart? Because I didn't produce it is why I'm pausing. I think that was produced, I'm gonna say for under $100 grand, but I don't know specifically. That in particular it was actually a real stretch for us. And I could actually call up the producer and see what was the background on that one. But we traveled, I was in LA, I traveled to Arkansas. We shot in a house, we shot in the Walmart store that had been reserved for us, like a few aisles. And I think I got my DP to shoot it for a lower rate and, pull some favors and some gear. I think, the Unilever spot, though, in contrast, actually much lower, more documentary style. You kind of run around and you find the shots a little bit more organically. That one was, it's not that it was unplanned, but it was shot in a way that was very flexible. And then we found, with working with those kids, you know, and crushing the eggshells and everything they were doing, you find the moments more or less in post, and you know what you're going for in terms of the overall story, but then you kind of get what you can get. And so you wind up piecing together, oh, well, this bit of voiceover, strings together with this other idea really well. And then you just go through iterations of that, and it takes a little more time in the editing to find it. Is that helpful? Cool.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks,
Thank you.
Johan.
That's wonderful. I appreciate it. So we have one more. Tal, this will be our last pitch for the day. And then we'll have the keynote speaker. So go ahead and get a mic. You got 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Folks, can you hear me? That's the first time I'm holding a mic in a very long time. My name is Tal. As the sticker shows, I'm an entrepreneur. I hope I got the right color. I'm also colorblind, so I'm not entirely sure. It is blue, but I've got the stage now. So I usually am a big fan of decks. I put on amazing decks. I've been on a TED stage. I've had a beautiful deck. I've been on South by Southwest. Last time I was here, published a book. There was a deck, but there's no deck this time, and for a simple reason, I wasn't planning to speak. The project is still in stealth mode, so you are the first people that are not being paid to work on it, that gets to hear about it. I just couldn't resist the room. But I guess I'm going to start off with a question. And please, raise your hands if you consider your network to be a critical part of your success in life and in work. Okay. And raise your hand if you think that your network will be critical for everything that's going on in the future for you. So your next opportunity, your next investment, your next idea. Okay, pretty much across the board, right? And then let me ask you this. Please raise your hand if you have a bulletproof process to keep an active and engaged network so you never miss a birthday and you always know what's going on with the people who are most important to you professionally. It's an easy one, right? It's an easy question because we don't really have that process. And I think now I'm getting to the point of telling you what I'm working on. Personally, I've lived in a bunch of countries, in Dublin and in Australia and in Ireland, in the UK, and I'm an Israeli. And I've worked for a bunch of companies, and I realized that when I leave those companies, the intellectual IP that I accumulate, more often than not, stays with them. It's on the Salesforce CRM. It's in a previous email that I no longer have access to. It's in a WhatsApp conversation from 2 years ago, and it's very hard to find. Or it's a Facebook account that I've stopped engaging with, 3 or 4 years ago. Or maybe it's on my LinkedIn. I've got 5,000 connections. I'm not showing off. I'm just saying it's impossible to get a hold of everyone. And once you don't have that process, your network starts to kind of loosen up a little bit. It's not as tight. All of a sudden, you're looking to hire someone, a product designer, and I'm sure I know a few product designers, but how do I find them, right? And we have these things happening all over. Now, the way social media works for us is, in a way, it kind of stopped working for us. We're spread across too many calendars, too many inboxes, too many social media outlets, and our network it spread too thinly, and it's not there when we want it. Did it ever happen to you that you wanted to reach out to someone to ask for a favor, and you opened the last conversation you had, and you realized it was an invitation to a happy hour from 2 years ago, and you're like, no way I'm going to call up a favor from this guy because I didn't respond 2 years ago, right? It's embarrassing. But we all want to be better networkers. So what is my solution? Where am I taking all of this? I think the problem kind of screams the solution out. It's a mobile app that consolidates your data from wherever it is. Facebook, WhatsApp, Messenger, LinkedIn, calendars, etc., and creates one cohesive profile that pops up at the right time on your map in a Tinder-like gamified interface that teaches who you interact with and how, what prompts are relevant to you, and then lets you just in a very light-hearted way, stay in touch with those people. I know it sounds pretty straightforward. The execution is a little bit more complex than that, but we'll have time for questions. With regards to the impact, I mean, I am where I'm at thanks to my network. I'm a high school dropout. I didn't even graduate high school. I've served 3 years in the Army. I wasn't in a position to take on the world in a storm. So I said yes or no to jobs that were offered to me. And more often than not, my skill set of throwing grenades and hiding in the bushes, carrying a big bag, wasn't very useful in the workforce. So I find myself working in jobs that were maybe fulfilling, but the ceiling was very low. One thing led to another, and somehow my network landed me in a bunch of cool companies. I worked for LinkedIn for 3 years. I worked for a bunch of startups. And I became an operator, a venture builder. That's what I do. I have a company called Startup Nightmares. It's a podcast as well. We interview entrepreneurs from all over the world about extreme experiences. And after a year and a half of doing that and raising $20 million for one startup, education technology, and another $3 million for a startup in the productivity space, I realized it's my time. I've got an idea that I'm passionate about, and I'm going to go ahead with it. So this is the first time I'm actually speaking about it, and thank you for being so attentive. I'm sure I missed out on a bunch of stuff, so we'll have time for all of that in questions. In terms of why am I even here and where the company is at, my ask today, I'm looking for a co-founder that's either a technical co-founder or someone who is a product wizard. I bring a very robust marketing, sales, and commercial skill set, but I need someone to complement me. Where is the company at? So I am 2 emails away from signing off the designs for the proof of concept. A local software house in Israel is going to build it for us. It's going to prove the concept. The app itself, or the idea for it, was already proven and researched with entrepreneurs and investors. These are the 2 go-to markets. And there is a beautiful brand that, I'm sorry, I'm not equipped to show you right now, but you can trust me, it's beautiful. I'm not sure about the colors, but everything else about it is beautiful. Business model-wise, this is an invite-only app for initially just investors, second stage entrepreneurs in a broader circle. And my point is to build a business that makes loads of money really, really quickly. The startup game is fun, I enjoy playing it, but it's not for me about hyper growth. It's about adding value to the people who need it and seeing that cash in as soon as possible. So we'll be working towards getting to 100K MRR within the first, I want to say, 6 to 9 months of launching. And I'm willing to stretch it for 12 months if it means the product reaches the market when it's a little bit more mature. Competitors, do you want to know, or is my charisma enough to give me a check? Okay, we want to know, fine, I get it. So there are a bunch of competitors, and with all honesty, it wasn't my ambition to go and start a startup. I'm living a pretty comfortable life doing what I do now, but I realized after having spoken to all of them, or nearly all of them over the phone, saying, what are you building? Can I invest? I want to be a part of the solution, that wherever they're taking it is not where I think this place should go. It's very Salesforce-y, it's a hyper-functional, or it's just an email replacement. And I think about it differently. I think about it in a more casual way, in a more lighthearted way. And because I couldn't find a competitor that does what I think that needs to be done, I found myself setting up the company. And with that, folks, I think I'll finish and open it up for questions.
Any questions?
This is a terrific question, and the question was, what's your name? Edward. So Edward says, birthday is my thing. This is my excuse to engage my network. I use Facebook for that. Just before I got tired of Facebook, I used to go onto the birthday page, and I do 2 things. Either wish that person a happy birthday, or remove them altogether, because who are they? Like, fair. He never forgets. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, Edward, I get it. And when I left Facebook, what I did was to go to the last 100 messages on my WhatsApp and say, hey, what's your birthday? Some of these are people who I haven't spoken to in a while, right? And they're like, excuse me? I'm like, your birthday, I want to know so I can tell you that I love you in a year's time. Not very authentic, but I did it, and now it's in my calendar. Manual, I still miss them, and it was awkward to get them all in. So yes, Stacked, the app, would know how to do that. They will all surface. You can get prompts like Like news mentions, Edward's company was mentioned in the news. It could say, John has just published an event, and it could say Tar's birthday. Okay, so that's the type of prompts, and there are more. I just won't get into all of them right now. What else, folks? If you don't make me cry, I'm going to ask for my money back, so please. Oh, no. Yeah. So is there a clear avenue to connect all of these different outlets into one cohesive profile? There are three main ways, and you're right, there's a lot of sensitivity because LinkedIn doesn't give their API very easily, Facebook doesn't give their API very easily. So first of all, it has been done. Some of the competitors have done it. A company called Clay, a company called AppHabit, they've done it, and there's ways around it. If I need to get to someone really high up in LinkedIn to get the hyper deluxe API integration for developers, thankfully I can for having worked there. So one thing is, yes, duplicate what people have already done. How good is it going to be? I can't promise you. But there are two other things. One are companies that get paid for enriching leads, enriching links. So I take a certain identifier, I hand it over to them, and they can create the profile. Fair enough, it costs me money. Makes the unit economics maybe less appealing, but fine, if we need it, we have it. And lastly, if you are joined to the app, you get to open a profile and decide what you share and how you share and how much you share. So it's first-party data, right? It's what I choose to share, and it doesn't get any more updated than that. If you choose to share any type of information, automatically becomes part of the profile the way it shows up for me. Please. I worked with an entrepreneur, and he was asked, so what's the business model? He goes, we're going to charge people money. And I'm going to do something very similar, whether it's going to be $39.99 a month or $9.99. I'm not sure, but listen, I want to see a company that can make money. I've worked with plenty of startups that make beautiful decks and unbelievable prototypes and very little money. So like, there's something here. If it works, it should make money. It shouldn't be just another page on TechCrunch.
Last question.
The name of the company is Stacked. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I must have not heard that.
Yeah, I probably have not said that, but it's called Stacked, and if you have a better name, I'm still open for it. I've bought a bunch of domains. So there was a real last question, or are we done?
Well, you can go ahead and get one. Go ahead.
Okay. Just wanted to know if you had plans for some sort of preferences page when you first go into it, because let's just say I start using this app. Very first day one, you said that you can swipe left and right on Tinder. Right now I've got 50, 60 notifications per app.
Yeah.
So what's going to keep me from just sitting there and then even if I swipe for 24 hours, not see the things that I want? So what I would like to see is something where, let's just say, I want to see birthdays only.
Yeah.
And then it pulls up all the birthdays. And then you can go through the birthdays just like he wants.
Yeah.
And you can see all the birthdays. Or I want to see birthdays and I want to see weddings.
Yeah.
Or I want to see if companies that post certain things. If you're talking on LinkedIn, only companies in the tech space.
Yeah.
Like how detailed have you thought about how to set that in the first place, and then you can let your algorithm take over?
For me to be successful, I need to have at least one wow moment in the onboarding. Like, I can't believe it does that, right? I want you to feel that sigh of relief the first time you touch the product. So the onboarding is the hardest part. If you've ever tried to build a personal CRM, you know it. You give up after 100 contacts, right? And even if you've put all of them in, 30 minutes later, someone changes a job and you don't go back to update it and it's lost. So the idea would be that, yes, you get to choose what prompts surface. Birthdays, anniversaries, whatever it is. And you don't get to do a big chunk of work in the beginning, sort through 5,000 contacts and decide what you want to see. But they'll show up as there is a prompt that's relevant. If it's a birthday, an anniversary, a news mention, and depending on how you behave with it, swipe left, swipe right, favorite, etc., the algorithm would learn what interests you and then enrich your experience in that way. So that should be my wow moment. We still have to figure it out, but you know, if you're looking for a job in product, then you're welcome.
All right, thank you, guys. Okay, we're gonna get started with the presentation, keynote speaker. I'm gonna say just a feedback on that. APIs for Facebook and LinkedIn. Good luck on that. I mean, we try to hack it a couple of times. We got accounts closed. So, yeah, here's the keynote speaker. I think you're on.
Cool. I'm going to actually give Bajoy speaker. Oh, thank you. I like to have a conversation, so let's see if we can get everybody to pull in a little bit. Let's break up the kinetic, stagnant energy and have a chat. It just feels better, doesn't it? My name is Danny Gootneck. I'm an entrepreneur. I've bootstrapped companies. I've raised capital. I've scaled companies. I've crashed companies. And I've been on a real long journey. I mean, I started as an entrepreneur at about age 11, breeding tuxedo fish, selling them to the local pet store. And I had one of the biggest aspirations that you could probably have in the history of mankind, which is I wanted to buy an album. So how could I make enough money to actually go down to the record store and buy albums? I loved music. I loved listening to music. It was a retreat for me. And that started off a long journey of just trial and error with entrepreneurial journeys. My first real journey was dropping out of college and starting a janitorial business. One of the things that's been interesting about the whole journey of entrepreneurship to me is really, it's been this kind of movement into models, right? When you start a journey, you kind of look around and you go, well, I can do that, so maybe I'll try that. And it's just a real basic model. You look around, I mean, that's kind of how I started my first business out of college. I was actually in college. I was studying various things, and back in the mid-'80s, late 80s, entrepreneurship was not sexy. It was not real cool at all. In fact, the only thing you could learn about business in college was about the marketing department of PepsiCo or the operations department of whatever place it was, and I was just absolutely bored. Most of the things that I liked studying were psychology, sociology, the human dynamic. So it was kind of more of an arts journey for me. Well, yeah, I started the janitorial business, and the beauty of that was that I had books on tape, and I could just roll around all night and listen to books by Maslow, books by things that had seemingly nothing to do with business, right? Because your whole idea about starting a company is, I've got to go out there, I've got to sustain a living, I've got to find a way to make money, and then once you start figuring out that you know how to make money, what happens? Oh, how do I make more money? That's got to be the solution, right? If I get bigger, if I can get from here to here, that's going to solve some problems, right? Gosh, how much I've learned since then. So, fast forward a little bit. My first real kind of big insight into what was my entrepreneurial journey about. I sold the first company. I jumped into another company. I end up taking a job. I end up stepping out of entrepreneurship, and I take a job for a recruiting company in Dallas. I was living in Phoenix at the time. And the recruiting company was like, gosh, I got in there, and we're recruiting doctors, and the first thing I thought was, oh man, you got to make a bunch of phone calls to a bunch of strangers that don't even know you and ask them, what are you looking for in a job? Are you looking for a job? You get hung up on a whole bunch and all of that. And so to deal with the monotony, I had to actually come up with a metaphor in my mind to make the job interesting. So I thought, I like concept albums. So a concept album is where the first side of the album tells a story, and then the second side kind of finishes the story. So I would use as a metaphor that I was the producer of a concept album, and I would try to reach out to people and say, hey, what are the first 5 tracks?
And then I'd try to match that to the company for the next set of tracks. And the company that I went to was really, really good at training. I mean, they walk you through all these different ways to cajole people out of their jobs, to make people, to sell them on something else. And part of what was starting to emerge for me was I was going through the training program and I was like, I don't like these crappy sales tactics, right? They're just annoying. They don't connect with people. I want to have real conversations. And I thought, I knew I was a little bit different from everybody else. I was in a big firm, shirt, tie. I showed up in plaid and things like that. And so they take me downstairs, and I'm not sure if I'm losing my job or if I'm doing well or what, because I was kind of kicking over the apple cart. And they said, we actually want you to go start a company for us. We think that you're doing really well physician recruiting, but we think you're more geared to starting this technology recruiting company. And I was like, well, I don't know anything about technology. They said, well, don't worry, we don't either, but we think you'll just figure it out. So I end up starting this technology recruiting company. And it was probably one of the biggest gifts in my life, because the first thing that you do is you're on this floor, nobody knows what you're doing. And in a very short period of time, you're trying to learn, gosh, what's the person in what's somebody in a tech company, what's their journey like, right? I just had found out what a doctor's journey was like, but what's the tech journey like? And I also had this opportunity of going, wow, I don't have to use any of that cheesy closing shit anymore, right? I don't have to try to cajole doctors into taking jobs. I can just go out and have conversations with people. And we started to recruit really, really well, but something just drove me nuts, bothered me to no end. I looked around, I had about 15 recruiters working for me, we were growing, we were doing well, and every recruiter that brought me a candidate or a resume and talked about it for going over to a client, I was like, that's your journey. That's not the candidate's journey. That's what you want. That's not what they want. And so I started to take models. Abraham Maslow's model hierarchy, has everybody seen that? Different types of psychological models. I started to dive into Carl Jung and think about, the tension of the opposites and what type of opposites exist here. And I started to redesign the interview, and I got every one of those recruiters on recordings. And I started to record every interview and review them at night, day in, day out, on the telephone. I'd just sit there, and every call that we made, I'd just go through. And I'd go, this needs to be fixed, this needs to be fixed. We need to get recruiters out of the damn interview. And then my clients started calling and saying, holy cow, how are you making such good matches? And I'm like, let's get your VPs on recorders. Let me ghost ride there. And what do we find out? 5 minutes into the interview, lo and behold, the interview's about the VP, not the candidate. Right? Common story. And so that actually took me on a journey. I started to interview founders of companies. And I started to redesign the entire interview process so that we could understand who somebody was at their essence, what they really cared about, and how to tie in some of the seemingly disparate lines. Because one of the big problems that we have as human beings is we're just kind of going about living our journey. And when something within us isn't satisfied or it's repressed, we kind of keep it back there for as long as we can, and then it rears up, and then we're not happy with what we have. And we switch our career or switch our idea or switch something else, right? So that was the big insight into my journey. And the beauty of 2008, when the economy melted down, is nobody needed recruiting anymore. So I actually took the interview inside of the company, and I just started to interview people inside of the organization and saying, tell me about your journey. Now separate yourself out and tell me about the organization's journey. What's going on there? And what you start to find is that entrepreneurs oftentimes carry the journey of the organization until they can carry it no longer. till it grows, right? And you often find that in our whole world of examining our own journeys, our first step isn't actually the place that we should start. And so I mentioned models, right? This is really important. What I didn't realize at the time is I was really just a power user of models. Particularly being here in the tech world, you guys probably are very familiar with models, right? Just different types of models. And so I'm going to share a model with you. Take a look at it. Is anybody in here familiar with the Bootstrap model? You are? What? Yeah. What do you know about it? You bootstrapped a company and sold it to GE? What company?
It was company Albion.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So are you familiar with this model or the Bootstrap map or Bootstrap Austin? No?
I did it way back when there wasn't a lot of models.
Ah, okay. Got it. Anybody else? Has anybody in here heard of Bootstrap? Yeah? Yeah, okay. Bootstrap with Bejoy's map. So one of the things that happened on my journey is I was doing some recruiting for Trilogy. Has anybody heard of Trilogy? Okay, Trilogy, big tech company out here, particularly in the mid-90s. And Trilogy actually, one of the kind of key members of Trilogy, Vinky Veeraraghavan, had taken me out to Sullivan's, and he's like, what's going on? How are you guys just nailing this match all the time? How are you getting all these good candidates? And so I start, of course, talking about Maslow, and he's like, stop. Stop. I don't want to hear about this. But you need to meet my good friend, Bejoy. You guys are two peas in a pod. And so that's Bejoy over there. It's hard to tell us apart occasionally, but you can tell. So I actually meet Bejoy, and we start having this conversation. And at the time, Bejoy had a company by the name of Aviri. And Aviri was working kind of on knowledge management. And Bejoy eventually released a book called The Human Fabric that talks about 3 core energies, and we all have some combination of these 3 core energies. He's going to talk about that next month when he comes out. So this is actually a 2-part talk you didn't know that you were part of. We're going to leave you with a cliffhanger. So I start having a conversation with Bejoy, and Bejoy starts, after Aviri melts down, he basically starts a company by the name of Bootstrap Community. And so he starts really exploring the stages. And what was so natural about the match in our conversations was Bejoy was a model maker. I wasn't a model maker, I was more of a model power user, right? And I even at the time, I would just use them kind of like, oh, I need this over here. I was trying to get an advantage in recruiting. I wasn't trying to solve anything, special in the world. I was just trying to use psychological models so that I could get to your motives, so that I could understand what the heck you really wanted, because most people had difficulty articulating what the heck they really want, what they care about, what they want to do. And so Bejoy and I start having this conversation. Well, Bejoy starts Bootstrap Austin, which talks about the stages of an entrepreneur's journey from a bootstrap perspective, right? There's different types of approaches that you can take to building your entity. And having been in funded businesses and non-funded businesses, I was really super interested in the bootstrap model. Well, when you're bootstrapping, if you think about it, and if you think about even some of the pitches that were going on, what do you think the first thing to focus on is? Thoughts? What's that? Yeah, how much money to put in? Yeah, how far can you get? Right? That's one of them. How am I going to sustain? What's the next one? The problem. Like what do you mean by that? What's the problem you're trying to solve? And what do you care about that? What's the thing that you care most about that?
That's what somebody's willing to pay for.
What is somebody willing to pay for it? So the value exchange. So it's basically, if you look at the demo part, you're kind of going out to your customer, right? And you're saying, I've got this solution. Do you want to buy it? How much will you pay for it? Is that the first step of the journey for bootstrapping? Anything else? Yeah. Product market fit. So product market fit is basically saying, okay, somebody buys and I can continue to sell this over and over again. Yeah. Yeah. Competitors? Yeah, who else is doing this? Right? Yeah. What's the founder's motivation? What do you mean by that? Right, what are they motivated by? Yeah. Hold that thought. So, if you look at models, and you want to look at this model up here, we've got demo, right? If you've heard demo, sell, build for bootstrapping, and oftentimes for launching a tech company, right? You do a demo, you go out and you try to sell clients or you try to get customers, and then build. I've got part of this blocked off, this bootstrap map blocked off, because that's exactly the way I started my initial companies, right? I was like, oh, let me go find out what the customer wants. How can I connect with them? How can I get some sort of exchange so I can exist and kind of make it to the next step? The thing that I've learned through interviews, so let me take you back to the interview for a minute. That whole cachet of listening to founders, videotaping them, interviewing them, people that go on their work journey, organizations, right? You can interrogate an organization. Basically, organizations can't talk for themselves, so you have to get people to talk for them. But they can describe who the organization is or who they think it is or what journey they think it's on. But if you look at this, the part that's really important is that journey piece. Every company, every person, and every founder that I've interviewed, for the most part, the common theme is, I believe that we're not tapping our potential. I believe there's something inside that wants to come out, that we're capable of so much more. And oftentimes what we do is we find ourselves looking, or the faulty thought that we have is what? Well, if I can just get to here, then I can do that. Then I can feel better, right? If I can get that first round funding, what happens? I can go to the next stage. Well, then it becomes, well, if I can just get to the second round of funding, then it's going to get better. And it never does, and it never does. So that first map that we looked at, if we look back at models, are all externally focused models. They're models that help us in the world today that are really, really good, right? So we have a lot of different models for understanding a company. What are some of the, have you guys used, what is it by Steve Blank? Business Model Canvas? What's that? Lean Startup, right? So there's all sorts of models to actually go out and interact with clients. The thing that I didn't realize for years and years and years that I've been focused on is that inner journey, the inner journey of entrepreneurship. And you hit on it. What's my motive? What do I care about? What's important to me? And that whole journey is difficult for people because hard to find models for it. Hard to find real good models. And so I spent 25 years parsing through and using model, picking up toolbox full of psychological models and different types of models and And then my dialogue with Bajoy started, and we started trying different models. And I've used these models in my own companies. I've used these models in recruiting situations. I've used these models for leadership development. And we've kind of come up and we've settled on this certain set of models that works. But before I get there, I'm gonna pop to this next slide here. I'll show you the whole journey. So if you looked at the other one, I kind of put blocks over the map. The first step, which you actually had right, was start with yourself. Right? What's your journey about? What do you really care about? What are those different things that you're interested in? You know, for me, it's a lot of times really successful founders of businesses were oftentimes really annoyed by something and wanted to fix it in society, right? They're like, I want to fix this problem. And so it became about kind of what they had an interest in and what they weren't, just as much as about what they were. And so a lot of times the problems that happen with starting a company is you go out to that demos thing and you're going out to customers, and you can often get lost if you haven't taken the inner journey, because then you start to just everything the customer wants or whatever the customer wants, you're constantly implementing, and you're not actually doing the work of kind of having that key dialogue of going, no, this is the problem we're interested in. When I arrived in Austin, met this wonderful lady, what was her name? Sharon. Started Baby Greens in Austin. And as I was talking to her, one of the things that was really interesting is she said, I didn't want to do all these other things. I didn't want to do these sandwiches. It was just salad. I just want to do salads and wraps, and that's it. And that's what sets me apart from my competitors. And so she really had a good grip on herself. So what does interviewing have all to do with this? And how do you actually weave this into understanding one another and actually going on a journey and understanding yourself? And we're going to have a really cool exercise here that's going to maybe hopefully make some sense. But if you look at I took pieces of that Bootstrap map, right? Demo. What are you doing in the demo phase? You're basically just building your product. You're saying, here's the things that I need to do. Does this work? Does this work? Does this work, right? Sales and marketing. What's that for? There's actually 4 different languages that we speak in business at any given time. Data, legal, sales and marketing, and meaning language. And so we have good models for all this other stuff. Meaning language, turns out there's a model for that. And there's a model in which we can understand each other. So we're going to do a quick exercise to understand that really quick. Everybody just grab a partner just for a second. Okay? Introduce yourself. Okay. Yeah. So if you can, hopefully it's somebody you don't know very well. I should have added that in. So, okay, out of all the partners, just somebody, one of you hold up your hand. Okay, you're going to be the first to go. Now, both people, think about a song that reminds you of work. Okay? Both people. Everybody who held up their hand, it's your job to find out from the other person what the hell that song's got to do about work. What does that song have to do with work? Pull up the lyrics, read them, do whatever, take a couple of minutes, go. Could I have 15 if possible? Sure. They're well, we're kind of networking right now. That's a good idea.
Song? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like it's pretty easy to figure out, but I'm not getting it. That's not what it's my business, but it's other people's business.
What was the song? Perfect.
So, tell what our jobs are, what we do.
What's that?
Can we tell what our jobs are?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're a lawyer?
I'm a lawyer.
Nice. So you know all about the legalese.
Other people's money. Other people's business.
Yeah.
Pumped up kicks. So you.
We started at like 35. No, because it was Oh. Not Fastly. It was like Fastly, like that's called Fastly. Did you find the song? Fastly.
Working, hustling, just like, you know, like data analytics around certain. That's so specifically, I know it was supposed to be time as a that turned out to be like his third album. He lied about that. You could have kept going.
Okay. Did you guys figure out what your song meant?
Oh yeah, like okay, maybe I will let you. I do the song, so probably you better describe the song. Willy Wonka.
Yeah, so I just picked like the Willy Wonka Oompa Loompa song. I picked the Willy Wonka Oompa Loompa song because I feel like that was my first introduction to work as a kid. And so that's what reminded me.
Hey, we can't stop the... Okay, it's time. Wait. This is always the hardest one to stop. All right. Let's explore one of the songs. Go ahead and tell us about your song and what it had to do with work.
Yeah, it's not very exciting. I picked the Willy Wonka Oompa Loompa song because that was like my first, I feel like, introduction as a kid to like the concept of work. And like I always remember being like really upset, like I didn't understand, like they had to do all this stuff and the kids just got to enjoy the candy and it didn't seem like they enjoyed anything. And I don't know, that always stuck to me. So that was the first thing that came to my mind.
Awesome. What did you guys come up with over here?
So mine was Firefly by Childish Gambino. And it was the first tech job that I had. It just played a lot that summer, just over and over. So it's intimately connected to...
What lyrics jump out?
Honestly, it's not the lyrics. It's just that, like, the beat, the underbeat.
Got it.
Just says Venice, California, and whatever it was, 2014 or whatever.
Nice.
Yeah.
Who else has a... Oh, there we go. Well, he's holding his hands up.
So my song that I pushed out there, it actually connected us. My song was Amarillo Skies by Jason Aldean, because it really described my entrepreneurship going on right now. And it aligned with Jer's song as well, because both of us have that same ultimate meeting, which both of the songs were like, he never complains, he never asks why. He just, pulls that plow across the ground and keeps grinding it out. And that's really what both of us are doing, is grinding out our startups in the entrepreneurship field.
Danny, we have one here. Ryan?
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about this. So January 1st, 2018 is when I first had the idea for my startup. It's a social network that's kind of but it's very much the opposite of anything that exists, more social productivity. And then I watched The Greatest Showman a couple days ago, and that kind of like was just really inspired me. So the song was Come Alive that I'd forgotten about, but it really just describes kind of what I thought what I was doing could do for people as far as unlocking. I just think there's millions of connections that are kind of locked up every day for connection, whether it's like, hey, I'm going on a hike, or I'm doing this, and it's just too hard to get people together and to create those efficiencies. And so that's what I'm, some of the problem solving. What am I doing? Oh, well, Come Alive, Come Alive.
Let's listen to the showman.
Yeah, well, you were the one that was like...
Oh, yeah, okay, I was reading the lyrics. So, come alive, go and ride your light. Let it burn so bright, reaching up to the sky, and it's wide open wide, you're electrified. That's the chorus. But then it gets better, because then he goes, come one, come all, come in, come on. To anyone who's bursting with a dream, come one, come all, you hear the call. And so that was amazing, because part of what Ryan was saying was like, it's actually about connecting people so we can actually connect with each other. And then it gets even better because, okay, the beginning is, you stumble through your days, got your head hung low, your skies are a shade of gray, like a zombie in a maze. You're asleep inside, but you can shake away, because you're just a dead man walking, thinking that's your only option. But you can flip the switch and brighten up your darkest day. Sun is up, the color's blinding. Take the world and redefine it. Leave behind your narrow mind. You'll never be the same. Come alive.
And he's never seen the movie, so I don't know. I thought that was... I told him he's got to watch it.
I'm definitely going to watch the movie then.
That's amazing. Hold on one second. I'll give him a book. That was fantastic. Woo-hoo. Yeah. Now, What did you guys come up with? What happened?
We had maybe an unusual example. It was a playlist. So playlist, but full of instrumental music mostly. So that doesn't give you a lot of lyrics to work with, but it kind of launched us into a conversation about, well, what kind of work is associated, because there's different types of work that you might be doing. Those might be supported by different types of atmosphere or lyrics or not lyrics, or so we were considering like, well, are you coding, or are you doing a creative writing assignment, or is it something legal or data-based, or and those maybe require a little bit different part of your brain. So that's kind of where we started to go with that. I have a playlist that's literally called Inspiration/Work, and probably other similar playlists that I turn to where I can have something that usually I'm looking for it to paint a certain mood, and that I feel like I can work well within that. So like today I was looking at a treatment from an agency and looking at how can I break this down and speak to them on the phone and about their concept. So that's a part of your brain that needs to do a particular type of emotional work, and yeah.
No, that mostly covered it. I guess the one, you sort of put the bow on what we were talking about, but sort of the initial genesis of the conversation was you were talking about it's primarily soundscapes, correct? It's like a lot of sound, like there's not a lot of lyrics. Yeah. So like what's interesting about that is one of my closest friends has a very like sort of close relationship with film. So like we were talking about how does your relationship with what you're doing make you think more critically about inputs? So, music is a good example of, I would say, an input that's like very clearly, if you spend a lot of time on commercial film, you're gonna think a lot more about stems and the mood and like the story that's told by music than potentially somebody who doesn't.
Nice. I mean, what's the first thing that touches us about a song? What's the first thing that we connect to with the song? Emotion. But what is it about the song?
It depends on the song, I suppose. But
The beat? Yeah, the vibe? Right. The vibe is the first thing that we connect to. What's the next thing that happens? I mean, if the song does have lyrics, obviously you've gone down the soundscape road, and you know what? This is the first playlist that I've gotten out of this, so I'm actually going to give you the last book so that you can... Yeah. The pitch, right. So you're getting the tone, the vibe, it's drawing you in, and then what happens? You get a hook, like something sticks in your mind, some sort of chorus. What's that? You relate to the song, right? And what do we do when we do that? Like, what really happens when we dive into that song? We're like, oh man, that line's sticking in my head, and you pull it up and you read the lyrics and you're like, oh man, it's not what I thought the song was about. That happens all the time, right? Like you read the song and this is not what the song that I thought I was really engaging with, but you know what the hell, I like it anyway, and I'm gonna interpret it my way, right? So there's a pattern in songs. How is a song written? Like what happens when a song's written? Okay, inspiration, yeah. But if you think about it, what does somebody do? They probably sit down and they're playing a song. They've got a harmony that comes to their mind, and then they start pinning the hook, right? This is this thing, this set of lyric. And then what the heck is that lyric about? Oh, I got to write a verse, right? So we all speak music, and the thing that I realized in interviewing, so I'm going to show you a model here real quick that describes the same thing that came out, and it's bizarre how this model came about. I was writing the book, but Joy basically called me up and he said, how would you visually represent a meaning language model? Because as we were writing the book, and I'm talking about interviewing, and I'm talking about what is the nature of our relationship to work and to others and to the things that we do every day. What is the nature of that thing? What grabs us and makes us get up in the morning and put 2 feet on the ground and say, I just can't put this down. This is what I want to do. And you really, to the point to where you really just don't care about the damn business model or things, money or any of that shit. You want to dig into this thing that you're doing every day. And that was the thing that I was searching for. And then Bejoy's like, we're talking about language. You're talking about an articulation. I'm like, oh, wow, you're right. That's it. So this meaning language model, I pin it down. I'm just like, actually, I put it on the iPad and I just draw this circle and this is what comes out. Mantra with themes. And so the thing that I got when I'm interviewing people is that we speak almost in chorus. We speak in mantras to each other, right? So I bump into Phil at a party and we start talking and it's like, I like Phil's vibe, man, and it's really cool. And we're discussing a business idea and shit. And we start talking about innovation. Man, we're really on the same page. And then we get together and 6 months later, it's like, I didn't know Phil at all, man. That's not what I'm talking. What the hell relationship am I in now, right? That's the way most hiring decisions get made. That's the way most relationships in general go. You get into this deal a little bit, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, what the hell about my relationship? We were interpreting that other person, or we were interpreting our work like we interpret that song, right? And we're not we're not lifting the veil. And on top of that, we're not even lifting the veil to our own song, right? We're taking these ideas like innovation, and I care about patience, or whatever it is, and we're not digging in and going, how? What's important about that? What's the verse that I'm going to write? What are the themes, right? And so even to the point to where you say, what are the negating themes and what are the affirming themes? What are the themes that really resonate with me? And what are the things that don't resonate? I saw a video recently by Jonathan Ivey talking about Steve Jobs saying no to stuff. And he said, you don't understand what Steve Jobs meant when he said, say no. And he said, say no to things that are obvious and you think you should do and you think you have to do to please the customer, but you know it's not right. You know it's not you. And so you say no to that thing. He goes, that's the type of no that you've got to learn how to say. And I use that to describe what the negating themes are, right? And I'll show you real quick before we get out of here, I'll show you what a negating theme is. If you look at Spirits in the Material World, this is one of the first songs. I was like, what the heck is a ghost in the machine? And, all this stuff with the police. And there's no political solution to our troubled evolution. Have no faith in Constitution. There's no bloody revolution. We're spirits in the material world. We are spirits in the material world. And so what's Sting dealing with there? He's saying, I'm this fleshy thing that's got meaning. And I want to find out what that dance is all about. And so our so-called leaders speak, but they don't speak for me, right? Somebody else can't articulate my meaning journey, my journey of understanding what that work is about and how to connect and have that conversation with others to a point to where we know where we fully stand. And you can do this with every relationship. And so he even goes down, where does the answer lie? Living from day to day. It's something I can't buy. There must be another way. So these tools, these models are incredibly helpful because they're easy to learn and hard to master. That old Atari thing, right? Real easy to learn, but hard to master. So because they keep giving payoffs and you see the nuance everywhere they go. And so that's the journey that I've been on. Essence mining is the interview. There's a whole bunch of caveats to it. I'm not going to share that today. But it's really how you get at your core mantras and themes, how you understand what your work meaning model is, and how do you uncover what you really care about, and how do you take that on a journey? Because time is limited. There's only certain aspects of you that you can kind of really focus on at a moment, and it takes time to synthesize. The thing that I've learned about being an entrepreneur for a long time now is that you start looking around and you read the stats and what entrepreneurs are super successful when they start their companies at 45, 50, right? It's turning out society's getting pretty complex and we've got to fit in there and we've got to work on all these different aspects of ourself to get to the point to where we're just tired of chasing the thing in the little cage and go, no, 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 this is what I stand for. This is what I care about. This is what I want to do. And I'll figure out that dance with the client after I figure out what I really want to spend my life doing. And I can get to that point to where it's like, I don't care about the material gains. This is where I want to leave my mark. This is what I want to do. Oops, I think I just turned it off. Well, oh, there we go. Yeah, so that you can make sense of my journey, what this has all turned into for me, recruiting, people on their journey, deciding to do the work of their lives, what's the best gift that I can give, and how do I tie these disparate interests that I've had of entrepreneurship, music, psychology? How did that all kind of coalesce into something that I offer people? And that was the conversation that I started having with Bejoy a little over a year ago, COVID. We started to go online with these tools of self-discovery. And we want to focus on those first 2 steps of Bootstrap, those first 2 inner journey steps, so that bootstrappers don't have to wait till they're 55 or 50 to really find themselves and take this journey. And so feel free to reach out to me there. There's if you guys are interested in taking the course, there will be some pages up pretty soon. So any questions?
So when you were interviewing founders and the employees that you were recruiting, what was the most useful or kind of like your go-to psychological model that you used to uncover what their motives were?
I had to develop it. It was essence mining. And so I've got a method called essence mining. That's the essence mining framework, that you take people through that journey, through an interview where I hold space, or somebody that's trained in essence mining method, because you can learn it. And how do you hold space to get that articulation out? How do you interrogate it, analyze it, and then how do you eventually synthesize it into something that packs a punch? And that was part of the journey of all the way back to innovating the interview. I didn't even know I had innovated the interview for years. I was just trying to get people the hell out of it and get focused on the person. But that's what emerged. And then there was the process of separating the founder out from the company, because you're birthing a different being that goes on its own journey aside from the founder. Any other questions? Huh? Yeah. I was trying to get a hold of you to talk to you about that. Is it okay if I offer the group a discount? Yeah. So we give these classes online at pathways.io. We'll have a live kind of site for that, but the TechMass discount is $1,000 off of the course. So anybody interested in diving in and learning these tools and taking these tools for yourself and learning how to essence mine and learning about the meaning language model, and there's another model that Bejoy is going to talk about a month from now that's in the course. Cool.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So I guess if you guys want to stick around and clean up after yourself, we have to be out of here at 9 o'clock, I've been told. There's a couple of drinks you can take with you, and you can network outside that glass, because we have to clean up and get everything. You can leave the chairs, just make sure you clean up after yourself. If you have any questions, just talk to everybody you met here today. Thanks for coming, and hopefully see you next month with Joe. Thank you, guys.